Creepy real stories with photos, video footage. Kevin Chen had always been obsessed with documenting everything. As a freelance photographer and urban explorer, his Instagram account had amassed over 200,000 followers who eagerly awaited his next adventure into abandoned buildings, forgotten tunnels, and places most people were too afraid to enter. "This is going to be my best series yet," he told his girlfriend Amy over FaceTime, setting up his equipment in the parking lot of the Riverside Psychiatric Hospital. The massive structure had been abandoned since 1989, its windows dark and broken, ivy crawling up the crumbling brick walls like grasping fingers. "I don't like this, Kev," Amy said, her face worried on his phone screen. "That place has a reputation. People say lots of things," Kevin interrupted with a grin. "That's what makes great content. Look, I've got my camera, my phone, extra batteries, and a flashlight. I'll be fine. I'll stream some of it live for you." He'd done his research. Riverside had housed over 2,000 patients at its peak, many of them subjected to experimental treatments, lobotomies, electroshock therapy, hydrotherapy that was more torture than treatment. At least 40 patients had died under mysterious circumstances, their deaths poorly documented and quickly buried in unmarked graves on the property. Kevin entered through a broken window on the ground floor, his camera already recording. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows through the empty corridors, illuminating peeling paint and graffiti left by previous explorers. He narrated as he walked, his voice echoing off the walls. "The air in here is thick, heavy. You can almost feel the weight of all the suffering that happened in these holes." His first photos were standard urban exploration fare, decrepit wheelchairs, rusted bed frames, a recreation room with a piano missing most of its keys. But as he ventured deeper into the building, climbing to the third floor where the most violent patients had been kept, something changed. The temperature dropped noticeably. Kevin's breath became visible in the cold air, despite it being a warm September evening outside. He raised his camera and snapped a series of photos down a long, dark hallway. When he reviewed them on his camera's display screen, his heart skipped a beat. In the third photo, there was a figure at the end of the hall, a woman in a hospital gown, standing perfectly still, facing the camera. She hadn't been visible when he'd taken the shot. He was certain of it. "Amy, you seeing this?" he asked, switching to his phone's video mode and panning down the hallway. The corridor was empty now. "I just caught something in a photo. A figure. But there's nobody here." "Get out of there," Amy pleaded through the phone. "Please. Kevin, this isn't worth it." But Kevin was already walking toward where the figure had appeared, his curiosity overriding his growing unease. He took another series of photos. This time, the figure appeared in 5 of them, each shot showing her closer than the last, though he still couldn't see her with his naked eye. In the final photo, she was less than 10 feet away. Her face was gaunt and hollow, her eyes black pits, her mouth open in a silent scream. Hospital identification was pinned to her gown, patient 1247. Kevin's hands began to shake. He backed away, his phone's flashlight beam cutting through the darkness. That's when he heard it, a woman's voice, soft and sing-song, coming from one of the rooms. "Doctors making rounds. Doctors making rounds. Time for treatment." "Who's there?" Kevin called out, his professional composure cracking. "This isn't funny." No response. Just that voice, repeating the same phrase over and over, growing louder. He should have run. Every instinct screamed at him to get out. But Kevin made the mistake that had killed so many protagonists in horror movies. He had to see. He had to document it. He pushed open the door to room 347, his camera recording everything. The room was empty except for a single hospital bed, its mattress stained and rotting. On the wall, someone had scratched words into the plaster. "We never left." Kevin took a photo. When he looked at the screen, his blood ran cold. The room in the photo was full of people, dozens of them, all wearing hospital gowns, all staring directly at the camera with those same hollow, black eyes. They stood motionless, crowded around the bed, some on the floor, some appearing to float in midair. And in the center of them all stood a man in a doctor's coat, holding what looked like surgical instruments. His smile was too wide, too eager. "Oh, God," Kevin whispered. "Oh, my God." His phone's live stream was capturing everything. Amy was screaming at him to run, but he couldn't move. He was frozen, watching as his camera revealed a reality his eyes couldn't see. He raised the camera again and took another burst of photos. The figures were moving now, advancing toward him in the images. In the viewfinder, he could see them getting closer with each shot, 3 feet away, 2 feet, inches from his face. But the room around him remained empty. Kevin finally broke free of his paralysis and ran. He sprinted down the hallway, his footsteps echoing like thunder. Behind him, he heard doors slamming open, one after another, getting closer. The sound of shuffling feet, whispers, moans, the screech of metal bed frames being dragged across floors. He didn't dare look back. He didn't dare stop to take another photo. Kevin burst through a door and found himself in the stairwell. He took the stairs 3 at a time, his camera and phone clutched in his hands. The sounds followed him, always just behind, never quite catching up but never falling behind either. On the second-floor landing, his phone buzzed with a notification. Someone had sent him a photo through Instagram. His heart hammering, he opened it. It was a picture of him, taken from behind, running down these exact stairs. But in the photo, surrounding him on all sides, pressed against him, were the ghostly patients. Their hands reached for him, their mouths open in silent screams, their eyes black voids that seemed to stare into his soul. The timestamp on the photo read, "Sent 3 seconds ago." But Kevin was alone. There was no one here to take a photo. Another notification. Another photo. This one showed him standing on the landing, right where he was now, surrounded by the doctor and his patients. The doctor's hand was reaching toward Kevin's shoulder. Kevin spun around. Nothing. Nobody there. His phone buzzed continuously now. Photo after photo, flooding his Instagram messages from an account with no name, no profile picture. Each image showed him from different angles, each one surrounded by the spectral figures, each shot capturing them getting closer, their hands almost touching him, their faces pressing against his. "Stop!" Kevin screamed. "Leave me alone." In response, his camera, still hanging around his neck, began taking photos on its own. The shutter clicked rapidly, the flash firing in bursts that lit up the stairwell like strobe lights. Kevin looked at the display screen and saw his own face reflected back at him in the photos, but behind him, over his shoulder, was a doctor, his surgical instruments raised. Kevin threw himself down the final flight of stairs and crashed through the ground floor door. He could see the broken window he'd entered through, could see the golden light of sunset beyond it. Freedom. Escape. He ran with everything he had, his lungs burning, his legs screaming. 20 feet. 10 feet. 5. His phone buzzed one more time. Against his better judgment, Kevin looked at the screen as he climbed through the window. The final photo showed him from outside the building, halfway through the window, escaping. But standing in the darkness behind him, filling the entire frame, were hundreds of patients and staff, all of them staring at the camera, all of them reaching forward. And in the very center, the doctor held a sign that read, "Come back for treatment." Kevin fell through the window and ran to his car, not stopping until he was inside with the doors locked. His hands shook so badly he could barely start the engine. As he peeled out of the parking lot, he looked back at the hospital one final time. Every window on every floor was filled with figures. They stood motionless, watching him leave. That night, safe in his apartment with Amy beside him, Kevin went through all his footage and photos. Hours of documentation. Hundreds of images. The evidence of what he'd experienced was undeniable. The photos showed things that weren't visible to the naked eye, captured moments that should have been impossible. He uploaded a selection to his Instagram with a long caption explaining what had happened. Within an hour, the post had gone viral. 50,000 likes, 10,000 shares. His follower count skyrocketed, but the comments weren't what he expected. This is amazing CGI. How did you do it? Fake but entertaining, obviously photoshopped. Still creepy, though. Nobody believed him. They thought it was all an elaborate hoax, special effects, clever editing. Kevin's documentation of genuine paranormal phenomena was dismissed as creative fiction. 3 days later, Kevin received a package with no return address. Inside was a single photograph, old and faded, dated 1987. It showed the staff of Riverside Psychiatric Hospital posed in front of the building. Kevin's blood turned to ice as he examined the faces. There, in the back row, standing among the doctors and nurses, was a man who looked exactly like him. Same face, same build, same eyes. The caption beneath the photo read, Dr. Kevin Chen, Experimental Treatment Division. Amy looked over his shoulder and gasped. Kevin, that's impossible. That's you. How is that you? Kevin couldn't answer. He couldn't breathe, because in the photo, Dr. Kevin Chen was holding the same camera Kevin on now, the same model, the same everything. His phone buzzed. Another Instagram message from the nameless account. This time, it was a video file. With trembling fingers, Kevin opened it. The video showed the interior of Riverside Hospital, room 347. The camera panned across the empty space, then turned to face the door. Kevin watched in horror as he saw himself enter the room, exactly as he had 3 days ago, taking photos, backing away in fear. But the timestamp on the video read, October 15th, 1987. The video continued. It showed Dr. Kevin Chen approaching his present-day self, reaching out, and the moment their hands touched, present-day Kevin vanished. The doctor smiled at the camera, waved, and walked out of frame. The video ended with text appearing on the screen. Treatment is eternal. You've always been here. You'll always be here. See you soon, Dr. Chen. Kevin threw his phone across the room. It's not real, he insisted. It's someone messing with me. It has to be. But even as he said it, he felt something changing. His memory seemed to split. He remembered his life as a photographer, but he also remembered other things. Patients, treatments, experiments. A life lived in those hospital corridors, year after year, decade after decade. Amy backed away from him, her eyes wide with fear. Kevin, your eyes. He looked in the mirror and saw them turning black, the color draining away like ink in water. In the reflection, standing behind him, were all the patients from his photos. They were smiling now, welcoming. Kevin's last coherent thought was that he'd been right. This had been his best series yet. He just hadn't realized he was documenting his own eternal return to Riverside. They found his apartment empty a week later. His camera and phone were never recovered. But sometimes urban explorers who venture into Riverside Psychiatric Hospital report seeing a young man with a camera taking photos in the darkness. They say is friendly, helpful even, offering to take their picture. Those who accept his offer are never seen again. But their photos live on Instagram forever, liked and shared by thousands who think it's all just clever effects. And if you look closely at those viral posts, really closely, you can see it, the same figure appearing in the background of every shot. Dr. Kevin Chen, still taking photos, still documenting, still looking for his next subject. The camera never lies. Sometimes, that's the most terrifying truth of all.